All right, good evening, ladies. I hope you guys are doing well. I apologize, I'm a few minutes late. I was actually playing, and so you guys didn't get to see what I was doing, but hopefully you guys will in a minute. So there's so many little techniques and things I want to show you tonight and what we're doing. And so I'm excited for you guys to be able to come and hopefully be able to create along with me and hopefully also learn some new things with what we're going to be doing tonight. I think there's a lot of fun things going on here. So hopefully you see that as well. I'm going to make sure you all can hear me. Let me know if you see me, if it's working well. It doesn't show the sound, and so I'm just a little nervous about that. Let me see real quick if that will work. All right, we're going to go until I hear from somebody. We're going to go and believe that you are hearing it all and that everything is working well. All right, well, let's go ahead and we're going to pray and then we're going to dive in because we've got a lot of fun things to do today. So, Lord God, I just thank you so much for today. I thank you for the chance to do this workshop and for us just to play, to get away from maybe the craziness of life and things that are going on and just to be able to sit down, relax, learn something new, get our hands a little inky and have some fun. Be with us tonight. Be with me. Help me to, for my words to be clear and for me just to come across well so everybody can see what's going on and understand and have fun along. We just thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Well, again, thank you for joining me tonight. We're just going to be playing, and I'm so excited because I want to show you something a little bit different than what we've really been doing in the past, especially now that we've kind of made the transition from Close to My Heart to Stampin' Up. We're getting to play with a little bit more product. We're kind of, in reality, I will admit, we're kind of not stepping back a little bit, but we're getting back to the basics of the papers and the stamps and the inks and all of that because we're still waiting for the whole new line of the workshops to come out, although they are coming and they are beautiful. But I know that it's a little bit different than what we were used to. So what's fun about this is Stampin' Up! Really has some products that really are quite amazing. They're got great looks to it, great potential, and we just need to learn how to use them, and then I think we can have some fun as well. So tonight what we're working on is we are creating this You Are Amazing workshop. Now if you spent $50 with me, and I can't even remember what month it was. I want to say November. This was the kit that you got, but because of how everything has been kind of crazy, we're just now getting to it. So you would have all of these in your, you should have already received it in the mail. If you did not make that, but you want to make this along with us, you are more than welcome. Grab your supplies. You can create with us. Just those who had made that purchase got all of the supplies free. So, but feel free to grab your own supplies and create along with us. So what we're doing tonight is we are using the Changing Leaves bundle. Now, I'm using the bundle, but you don't have to use the bundle. You can use just the stamps and or the dies. I'm using all three. And what is really exciting is when I created this, it was brand new. But now it is actually on the While Supplies Last or retired list or whatever it's called now. And so that means if you have not gotten it yet, now is your time to get it. I want to say that the embossing, this is the embossing folder and it comes with the dies. So I want you to know that it's not just the embossing folder on its own, okay? It was 40 and I think now it's like 24. So this is only while supplies last. I would highly recommend you jump on it and go get it. I believe the stamp set is even marked down maybe to 15 or 10. This is on sale as well. Don't get it as the bundle. They have not discounted the bundle, but they have discounted each item separately. So get it that way and save yourself some bucks. Now, what's nice about this is a little bit different than maybe some of the other embossing folders that we've used before. This is a hybrid. And what that means is it works in tandem with our dies. Okay, so it has a die that will fit directly in here. And I've showed these before, but I just think they're awesome. And so we're going to really play with it tonight. But it fits right in there. You can see it kind of is stuck. Fits in there. You put your paper in and you roll it through. And we're going to do this a little bit. And it will cut it out and emboss it at the same time. So it's so cool. It saves you some steps. You get to do some really fun things. We're going to use this in several different ways today. Okay, so I just want to prepare you. We're going to go ahead, take this out, use it. I'm going to show you some different ways that we can use it and have some fun with it. For now, I'm going to stick the die cut back in here so I don't lose it, because I know me and I know that I will lose it. And then we're just going to play with the embossing folder for just a second. Now, whenever I get a new set, I like to go ahead and label it. That way I know I have everything together. So I know if I'm missing something or if it has something, because I don't always store all my pieces together. Usually I have my embossing folder together, and then I'll have my dies together. And I was for a while putting my dies inside my stamp set. And I think I had even shown you all how I had gotten these off of Amazon, where I could just, they had the sticky back, I stick it in there and I put some of my dies here. And that works well for some, but I'll tell you something. A lot of these dies don't have to just be used with the stamp set. Yes, they coordinate really, really well with these 3 pieces, but look at all these other dies that I can use for so many other things. I've got this die set here. We're using it for our title or for a little note. Same thing here. We've got just a circle, right? We can use a circle for everything. So if I put it in here and I didn't have it with my my dies, then I would only use the set when I'm using the stamp set, or maybe even with my my embossing folder. And so this is why I've kind of gone away from putting them in here. I know that is what I had told you previously, but I'm always, you know, seeing what works for me. Now, if they were more fitted only for the stamp set, if there were no extras like these, then yes, I would just leave them in here because it would make sense that they would go together. But because, you know, we can use leaves in so many different things, this is a good place for me to be able to put them. So that's exactly what I'm doing. All right, so just want to kind of update you on kind of how and why I changed all of that. The one thing about all of the stamp sets and the dies from Stampin' Up, if you've gotten your hands on any of them, you have noticed that there are a lot more dies than there are stamps. And coming over from Close to My Heart, all of our dies coordinated perfectly with our stamps, and that was great, but you only got what worked with the stamps. And here now with Stampin' Up, they have them so that you get even more. You get a lot of extras, and I really, really like that. It makes it, in my opinion, last a lot longer, and it helps me use them a lot more than just with the stamp set. I'll tell you a little secret. There's even some sets that I've only gotten the dies and I've not gotten the stamp set. I know that. Can you believe that? But, you know, if it's not something that's going to, you know, work for me, if I don't need the stamp itself, or if I, you know, the saying, that kind of thing, and I feel like I can use the dies for many more, then I'll get that. So just saying. All right, so tonight we're working in real time. I have not prepped anything, done anything. We're going to do all of this together so that it may take a little bit more time, but you will see how everything kind of works and how we're going to do it. So the first thing I want you to do is, out of your kit, I want you to get all of your 6x6 papers. And if you are just following along and creating with us, we've got 4 6x6 white. I've got 2 6x6 in the Glacier. We're going to use the light Glacier side. And then 2 of the Misty Moonlight. Misty Moonlight is from Stampin' Up. And the Glacier is from Close to My Heart. I'm still using up some of those. And so when I do the free kits, a lot of times I will use up what I have. But this is a close match, not 100%, but close to Pool Party. So if you have Pool Party, you could grab that. White, and then we are going to use some Ballerina, but we're not doing this step with Ballerina yet. Okay, so all we're going to do right now is we're going to treat our embossing folder just like an embossing folder. We're going to take these and we're just going to put them in, and we're going to do this on all of these pieces. So this is going to take us just a few minutes, but we're going to stick these through and we're just going to emboss them. So I have off camera my embossing machine, and I'm going to use it over here because if I do it so that you can see it, then it's going to get it's going to shake the table. So I don't want that to happen. And I'm trying to get my pieces all together so that we can do this well. right, so it took me a minute to get my pieces together, so you probably already got 2 or 3 done by now, but so that's what it looks like. And just look at that beautiful embossed look. I love, love, love that, okay? And that is just cardstock, just with embossing. I feel like embossing folders, they're kind of one of those things that we think of last, and yet they give so much beauty and dimension to our projects. And so I hate that we forget about them. Or we think that they only work for cards, and that's so not true. They do work really well for cards, but they will work for layouts as well. All right. So there's those. Now remember, what we're doing is we want the light side to be the side that's up, so it's going to be raised up, okay? So for that, that means when I put it in my embossing folder, I'm going to put it straight down, and then the Stampin' Up logo right here is going to be facing up, okay? All right, there's that. Hope you guys are creating along. You're very quiet tonight. And that one, let me show you what happened. So my bottom plate didn't move like it was supposed to. It only got a little bit of pressure on it. So I'm going to run it through again. And again, the nice thing about these are you can kind of see where it pressed before. So it helps me line it back up. I was able to get some of it on there, so that helps. If I didn't get any, it wouldn't matter. I could just start all over. Okay, there's that one. And then on my whites. So I know this part is not very exciting, it's kind of boring, but it is important that we do it, and I wanted you guys to be able to do it in real time with me to kind of see all the little steps. Two more. Luckily, a lot of the stuff that we're doing now is the prep, and then when we're finally able to put it together, it will come together pretty quickly. But there's lots of prep today, because we're really going to be playing more with the elements than anything. Okay, so now I've got all of those. These are our background pieces. I've got all of those done. Okay, and you can see just like the curvature of it when I hold it like that, just how cool that really is. And I really, really I just love the texture and the dimension of all of these. And you can see we're going to use those for our background or our base. But first, while we've got that out, we also want to go ahead and we want to cut out several of these leaves that are going to be our backgrounds. Now I want to show you just a couple things that we can do with those, okay? So as I showed you just a second ago with the stamp set, we could use the stamp set and we could do like we have traditionally done, which is stamp it and then put the die and then cut it out, right? What's neat though is this time you don't have to do that. This is where using the stamp doesn't have to happen when you have a hybrid embossing folder. So I'm going to show you two different things that you can do with this, okay? So here it is. I've got my plate. I've got my embossing folder. I'm going to take out my die and I'm going to put my die directly over. This is on the lid of, on the other side, it's got the Stampin' Up logo, okay? I'm going to place it right in there and you can almost feel it like kind of clip in there, okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to take some of the paper that I had given you, or if you are creating along with your own stash, just some of yours that is so maybe some of your scraps, that kind of thing. And I am just going to put it in here and I'm going to try and cover up as much as I can where I can see that little outline is. So just like that. See how it's covering up? Let me see if I can show you. So I don't have to cover up every piece. I just have to cover up where that little, the raised ledge is, where the cut is. So that's what I'm working on. I'm just going to put that in there. And just to make sure it stays like I want it to, I'm just going to take a little piece of washi tape. Now the only thing I'm going to tell you about washi tape is when it comes to Stampin' Up's papers is these are very fibrous. And so a lot of times I find that my washi tape or regular tape, any adhesive will tear this. So I'm okay doing it on the back because nobody's really going to see that part right now, but be careful if you use it and do something like that. Try and get it off to as much to the side as possible. But that's going to hold it in place, and that's just an extra precaution. A lot of times you don't even really need to do that when you're using an embossing folder like this because it's really going to hold it in place. But I'm just doing it as a precaution since my piece of paper is a little short of hitting all the edges, and then I'm just going to run it through again just like we did with the embossing. All right, so now when I go to take this out, here is my paper and it's already cut off all of those pieces and they're nice and raised. Do you see that? Nice and raised. Okay, so they've already got embossed and they're cut all at the same time. I mean, how cool is that? I absolutely love that. So I'm going to put these over here to the side. I want to use those again in a minute. But there's also one more thing I want to show you. Okay, and you can see I did this on some of my pieces here. Let me move my stuff so you can see the layout. If I want to get more color than just the base color, I can easily do that again without the stamp. I don't have to have the stamp to do it. Okay, so what I'm going to do for that, and I'm just going to take my leftover scraps right here that I have. I'm not even going to cut it down. I'm just going to kind of tear this, okay? And I could even cut some pieces out of there if I wanted a fussy cut. But for what I'm about to show you, I don't need to do that, okay? So what I'm going to do is I am just going to take the ink pad. Again, this is Misty Moonlight. And if you played it all with the Stampin' Up ink pads, you know they are very, very, very juicy. So you can be very light-handed on this, okay? So in order for me to know or be reminded on which pieces are going to get cut out, I'm just going to kind of lay this here again in case I forgot or in case you would like to see. And I'm going to see, okay, it's 1, 2, 3. It's those 3 that are going to get cut out, right? So what I'm going to do, since I've just got a small piece of paper in here, it's not very big, but I can get both of those pieces. What I'm going to do is on the side that this is going to be on, because if you think about it, this is the side that it's going to be held onto. This piece is going to press down into that, right? So the raised piece is going to be over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my ink pad and I'm just going to lightly try and cover it. And I'm really only going to focus on those areas that I know I'm about to cut out. All right, so those are my areas. Some are a little bit heavier than others just because you've got that flat edge, but that's okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go put this back in here. Okay, Then I'm going to take my paper, put that down. Oh. Make sure I didn't just, nope, I'm good. Okay. Put that down, close it up, and I'm going to put it through the die cutter again. Now, when I take it out, I open it up and I take it out and I get my pieces that were cut. Look at how they have that beautiful color on them now. See how beautiful that is? They're much more vibrant. These are the ones without the ink. Can you see the difference? And so sometimes we want it to be subtle. We want it to kind of go back into the, into the background. Other times we really want them to pop. So those are just some different ways that we're going to play tonight, okay? So I'm just going to throw these extra pieces away. And what we want to do right now is we literally just want to play. With all the scraps and all the things that you have, what we're going to do is we're going to just ink it up, do a couple more. This time I'm going to ink up all 3. Because I am going to put it all in there. And you don't have to worry about this, with the fact that it's all inky. We're going to end up washing this, and all you have to do is just put this under your sink and have running water on it. Okay, and I'm going to show you that in just a little bit about how it will just clean right off. All right, so I've got that there. Now I'm just going to stick this on top. Remember I said at the beginning we were going to get inky, so hope you're okay with it. All right, so now I've just got to hold this in place, make sure it doesn't fall away on me. All right, and then here, I'm trying to remember how I did this one, or maybe this piece is a little bit smaller. I think that piece might be a little bit smaller. Yep. Okay, here we go. Well, maybe it, haha, it was that way. All right, so there we go, it was that way. Again, because I'm having to cut it close, I'm just going to take a little bit of my washi tape. I'm going to tape it down to the back and then to my embossing folder just like that. Make sure it's not going to move. I'm going to put it down so that it's cutting on here. And because I'm doing this, I'm going to save as many steps as I possibly can. Okay, so I want to be able to get out some more of these other elements. And since I'm already going to have to run it through at one time, why not just do them all at the same time, right? So I'm just going to put as many pieces on here as I can. And obviously you can see we are not going for traditional colors. I'm okay with that, okay? I'm not trying to go traditional here. And then I'm going to get some washi tape because I'm trying to hold these pieces together. And I want to be able to try and get as much real estate out of my pieces as possible. And we're going to do it just like that. All right. Now we've got that. We're just going to put the platform like this, and we're going to put it through. And I said that, but I actually wasn't thinking when I did that, so forgive me. Because we've got the embossing folder, I can't make my die cuts at the same time because the embossing folder has to be on a wider width to go through, and it's not enough to get my die cuts, the pressure on it. So I was not even thinking about that. I was just trying to save some time and forgot about that step. So that part's not going to work, but we'll do it again in a minute. So I don't know if you can see it, but some of the ink has stuck to here. I'm just wiping it off. and then I'm going to wipe it off my glass mat. So not a big deal. So I've got all of these blues to kind of play with. I'm going to go rinse this, and I will be right back, and I'll show you really quickly how we can continue moving forward. Okay, that's how fast it was. It just literally rinsed it. So you can see it's still wet. I'm going to dry it a little bit just so it doesn't get my paper wet. But it just literally rinses right off. I love it. Okay, so you don't have to worry about ruining your embossing folders by doing this technique, you know, because you're putting color on it. Now, some of the, like, even if one was going to, I would have thought the blue would do it. But sometimes the reds, like we've seen with our stamp sets, the reds, the dye in it just wants to stain. But I have yet to see that happen here. But that would be the only one I would think of that it might. So again, I've got all of this stack here. We're going to do the same thing. We want to do this with our ballerina, and we want to do it with the glacier. And remember, we're focusing on the lighter color of the glacier. So if we're going to use the piece that we're cutting out, it's going to be on the back side of where you see Stampin' Up. We want that to be the light side. Okay, so see light, dark. I want to make sure my light side is going to be here. So again, I'm just going to take my tool or my die that I have here, and I've still got a little bit ink on it. I don't really want that transferring to my glacier or my ballerina, so I'm just rinsing. I should have rinsed that off, but I'm just taking my chamois to it. And I'm just going to stick this in here, and we're going to do exactly like we did before. In fact, because I've already got several that the background has that light, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to ink it up. So take your glacier ink, and we're just going to same thing. Now typically I would tell you, if you thought it might stain, start with your lighter color and then go to your darker color, right? I mean, that's just kind of common sense, just in case it does stain. You don't have to worry about the color transference. So we're going to see if we see any of that. But obviously you can look at this and see that there's no color transference here. Okay, so I don't think this piece is going to be able to allow me to get all of them. So I'm just going to focus on, I can cut off some of that tail, that's okay, but I'm going to try and get as much as I can. All right, close it up. Nope, actually, I did that, but I did not put my die in. See, this is why I need you guys talking to me. But I think you're all working along with me tonight. All right, so got that in there. That allows me to see it a little bit better. I can see where I need to place it. Make sure it doesn't move. Again, feel free to washi tape it down. Obviously, you can see I'm going to have a little bit of this stem cut off. That's not a big deal, and I'm not going to be able to use all of that. I can tuck that and use that in the background somewhere, so that's not a big deal, but I get most of both of those, so that makes me happy. All right, so let me stick this through. And see the colors that are on there now? I used the light side, but I put the ink there, so it really made it stand out. All right, so here's the dark side, no ink. Here's the light side, and you can see I'm getting the lighter color popping through, but I've got some of the inks kind of popping through there as well. So don't pay attention to my inky fingers. That's just part of the fun, right? All right, I'm going to do it again. And you can do this as many times as you want. You may use them all, you may not. I will tell you, I have a little bin. It's like one of the photo boxes that Close to My Heart used to sell. You can also get them at like Hobby Lobby. Whoop, I just did that on the wrong side, didn't I? Yep, I did. All right, well, it doesn't matter. I'll end up washing that off in a minute. But you can get them at Hobby Lobby. You can get them at the dollar store. You can, if you don't have any in your stack, like that's really what you can get. But I keep them, and I put, like when I do die cuts, a lot of times if it's like a mass of one kind of die cut, I will put all of them in a little box. And so I'll show you my box. And that way, if I'm putting together just a quick card or something for somebody, it gives me the opportunity to just, instead of having to, you know, get everything out and cut it out again, I can just go to my stash and cut them out really quickly and not have to worry about it. All right, there we go. So there we go. There's our light piece. You can see it's the light, but it's got the ink, and the ink's kind of giving it like a little outline. So it definitely is a different look. Like it almost looks whiter in the center of these, where when we did it with the Misty Moonlight, look, it almost looked darker because the color popped. But really, there is a lot of lightness in there. So it's just so interesting and so fun, the different effects that you get with it. All right, so we've got those. Now we want to go rinse it off again. All right, so I've got it back. Here's the bin I was telling you about. Here's my bin. You can see I've got all different colors and things in here. They're from just different projects I've worked on, and these are all leaves. So you can see I've got some that were die cuts that popped out of something. This was from the Friends for Life. These are just some of the die cuts, different pieces here. And I put them all in here. And that way when I'm working on a project, I can just quickly grab them. So these two here are from this changing leaves set. Some of these are from other Cricut cuts and things that I've cut. But this is just a quick place for me to go. I just keep it like this. And then if I'm working on something and I want a little bit of like a leaf texture or something like that in the background, I can easily grab it. It's not a problem. All right, so we've got those. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do our ballerina. So for the ballerina, you can do light or dark, totally up to you, whatever you feel up to. So here's my piece here. I did a little bit of both. So just to kind of, again, bring in the color a little bit more. You do whatever you're feeling like. I need to cut my piece down just a little bit. All right. And because this was such a soft thing, I did not put ink on it. Feel free, if you have ballerina and you want to add ink to it, you absolutely can, but I did not put ink on it. So I'm just going to put mine through like we've been doing from the beginning and just let it cut it out itself. There we go. And I'm going to try and save as much paper as I can so I can use up what I've got. And there we go. Sorry, this is probably the most boring part, is you waiting for me, if you're not being able to create along with me, waiting for me to cut these out. But hopefully you're getting a few little techniques in the process. There you go. And see, there's no color on those, even though I just used a dark color and then a light color on it. So really, truly, that's how beautiful they just rinsed right off. And then here's the base, and I can go in and cut more of these off if I wanted to. And I have done that many a times, let me just tell you. I've done that many a times. All right. So, let me see. I think I'm going to do it one more time. I want to make sure I have a good stash. The more we have, the more we get to play with, and we don't have to stop creating and redo it. So I like to try and do it as many as we can there. Now this time I'm going to focus on these two. So I'll do it like that. Here we go, and these just pop right out. And I'm even going to keep that big piece, even though I was only able to get a little bit, because I can cut those pieces off and still use it. And I like that ability and possibility, I guess I should say. Okay, so we've got all of those. Now, what I'm going to do before we move forward is we're going to go ahead and do the rest of our die cuts. So go ahead, like we started to before, and I'm going to show you a little technique that makes it, and I've showed this before, but I'll show it again for anybody new, that it just makes it super, super easy to do, and you get more out of it. So what you want to do is just take a piece of copy paper. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but we just want a little bit of copy paper. So I'm going to grab some out of my printer and cut it down. All right, so here's a piece of copy paper. Thought I had some, but I think I was playing with it earlier. Okay, here's my piece of copy paper. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my dies and I'm going to put them as close together as I can, so I can get as much as I possibly can out of my paper. Okay, and then I'm just going to take some washi tape and I'm going to stick them all together with my washi tape so that they do not move. The pieces will stick together. That's what I'm looking for, okay? All my dies will stick together. I'm not worried yet about it sticking to my paper. Right now what I'm focusing is on my dies. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit more washi tape, and because that one's wanting to move just a little bit, this taller one. And you can just go in different directions, do it however you want. If I went this way, it's not going to do anything because that's still only one die, right? So I'm just trying to make sure that it's nice and stuck to those. Okay, so I'm good there. So I'll put these to the side for a second. All right, so I'm going to, that piece feels like it wants to come out. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on here like this, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I am just going to cut. Actually, we're going to be able to do this even without. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and get some of my paper that I want to cut out. I'm going to move this over to that corner so that I can get as much out of that paper as I can, and I'm just going to hold it down to the paper. I've got my pink paper below. I've got my copy paper. I know you're probably like, why copy paper? But I'll explain in a minute, okay? We're going to go ahead and cut that out. All right, so now when I go to pick this up, see how I've got all of those little pieces here? All right, the copy paper is going to end up sticking to my washi tape, but not the paper that's below it, which is really what we're looking for, okay? So I'm just going to kind of pop that out a little bit, or I can even take some tweezers and kind of pull this up, and my copy or my copy paper may come up on these just because this is so dainty and has lots of holes. It works really, really well when you're trying to do bigger pieces that are more flat, but it will work on this one. And so, well, the copy paper part's not going to work for this one because it just does not have enough to hold on to, I think. But I have the copy paper in a design now. How fun is that, right? Okay, so we've got that. You can peel that apart or leave it. It's up to you. But it's allowing me to be able to pull it, and then if it needed to hold on to something, it would hold on to the copy paper, and then usually I can get my pink out just fine, or my other layer out just fine. And I'm just going to pull that up, and it would hold on to it. But again, there's so many holes in this one, it's really not necessary. So I'm just got a big old mess here. We're just poking out all the holes. We don't need to worry about, okay, and we've got that. But these pieces are now stuck together, so when I go to do more cuts and designs in more of the paper, I don't have to keep adjusting it. I know that I can get it just like that. So I'm going to do it with 2 pieces of paper. So here I've got the Misty Moonlight and the Ballerina. And we're going to cut some of this out. And I just realized we did not do any of our bigger leaves in white. We do need to get some of those as well. With the fibrous paper from Stampin' Up, it helps to be able to have that copy paper there because sometimes it will hold on to it and rip it. But what we've been using, this Ballerina, is the Close to My Heart, and so it's kind of got a little bit more of that slick feeling to it, I guess you could say. And so you don't have to worry about it as much. All right, so see, these are just popping right out. And what's nice also is there's these little holes, release holes, that you can poke tweezers through, and then it pops. If it's a really thin and dainty die, it just pops it out. And you can see here, I don't know if it's easy to see or not, but there's a white paper right in there. It held onto it from the first time, and that's because that's where our washi tape is. And so it allowed the others just to pop right out. So here we go. And now I will say this is one of the slight differences with Stampin' Up and Close to My Heart. This one, this is their fibrous paper. Because it's fibrous, sometimes I am not able to double up on it like that. And so, and it go through both without adjusting my setting to make sure, or adding another plate to make sure that it's pressing a little bit harder. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that one out again because it didn't make it the first time. With their traditional paper from Stampin' Up, that is going to be an issue because it's a thicker paper. And I have to say I love it for like bases and stuff because it really does feel substantial. But for scrapbooking and stuff, I don't really know that that's necessary. And so I do love, well, that one little piece didn't come out, so we're just going to take some scissors to it. I do love that the new two-tones cardstock that Stampin' Up is carrying, and all those little pieces inside are going to come out, so I don't have to worry about pink and blues together, right? The new Stampin' Up two-tone cardstock is a thinner weight. It's even thinner probably than the Close to My Heart paper. So what I'll say is that should be just fine if you're trying to do multiple cuts at once to be able to use that paper. We're playing today with the traditional Close to My Heart and the traditional Stampin' Up. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult, I think, to kind of get those out, or to do 2 at once. But we're giving it a try, right? And 2, you can see that my cutting mat is very well loved. And so when you have a used cutting mat like that, sometimes it's hard to get a good cut all the time, because if there's grooves in it, those grooves are going to be, they're not going to give the pressure it needs as it goes through. So just kind of remember that as well. All right, so But look at all these little pieces that we have and all that they're doing for us. I mean, like, look at how cute and simple those are. And again, remember, I know that these are not our traditional colors, but that's kind of why I like this project so much, because we've all seen the fall typical colors, you know, of the greens and the oranges and the reds, and they're beautiful, but sometimes we need to be able to look at something and see a different color come out of it. And so that's kind of what we're doing tonight. All right, so I'm going to try and use up this paper that I've got here, which means I might not get this one, but I'm going to still let it go through, just because it's easier to leave it all one piece than it is to keep trying to break it apart, right? And it's not hurting anything. All right. So we've got like all these little, you know, pieces that we can play with and go to. And just pulling them out. So these that have all the holes, yes, it makes a big, you know, mess as far as having to clean up all the little inner pieces. But I love the simplicity of it, and just how delicate they are. I feel like it adds just so much to your projects. All right. So there's those. So I've used that paper pretty well, so I can feel good about throwing it away. And that's another thing too, like if you have little itty bitty scraps, go ahead and cut out your pieces, right? And go ahead and get them so that you're using everything you possibly can from them. So here's one of the ones that we did. We're good with that. I feel like I got everything out of there. Now we forgot to do our white. So we do need to go back and get our white out of here. So take some white scraps that you have, and we're just going to run them through and get some more of the leaves that we have. And now I'm just looking at some of my bigger white scraps, see what I've got. Okay. Actually, I had done an extra base of the 6x6 that we had just kind of seen earlier, so I'm just going to use that. That can be one of my pieces, right? So I'm just kind of putting it here. Again, I'm not putting any color into that. I'm just going to line this up. This is where we want just the white. We're not looking for anything, you know, any color on it or anything like that. We just want white. And then I'm just cutting these out. And then again, I can use all of these other pieces and cut those out by hand if I wanted to. And again, I have done that. All right. So we've got those. I might do just one more. If you have to make a decision about where to cut or where not to cut, obviously stems are probably going to be the thing that you're going to carry the least about, right? Because you're going to tuck most of your stems up underneath areas, but try and get as many of the leaves as you can. So there we go. We're just putting this in here. Those out. And so this works so well even just with like your scraps. Like you don't have to have a full piece that covers every little bit. Again, love that. All right, so I feel like we've got enough of those. Now let's go back and do some of the white up here of these. And I'm going to do some of the pink as well. Actually, I didn't get any of the glacier. That's what I wanted to do. So let me pull out. Here's a scrap of glacier that I grabbed. Okay. And I'm actually going to turn this because I want my washi tape to kind of go off of the edge a little bit, okay? So that's going to help it go off, and then it will hold on to the plate, and then I won't have to worry about it moving as I go to put it through. Now both of these were close to my heart paper, so I feel pretty confident that they went through like they should, but because my mat's a little warped, I'm going to do it again and raise it up into the area of the mat that's a little bit more raised. When you use your mats as much as I do, it's very easy for them to get warped like that. But you know what? I'm okay because I love what I'm able to get out of them. All right, so this one still didn't cut all the way through, but my white did. Let me pull out my white here. Look at how cool and detailed. And to me, that piece right there looks like that could be like coral in the ocean. So think outside the box when you look at your designs. What does it look like it could be? Not necessarily what does it have a claim on it, but I think that would work beautiful for coral. So again, think about those when you're looking at your dies and your stamps and you're trying to decide it to purchase it. What else can you see when you use the dies? What could you make it into and use it beyond? I think same thing, you know, we see, I don't get to go deep sea fishing or snorkeling or all that very often, but I want to say you could kind of almost put these in the ocean somehow and have something like that, and then those coming up on the other side of it, and it would work. So if you get to go in the ocean much and you have an opinion on the matter, speak up now or forever hold your peace, right? Or just take me with you next time. How's that? That way I can see for myself. All right, I'm going to put that through. And we're almost done with our die cutting. But think about how much faster it went that we were able to emboss and die cut at the same time and not have to cut it out by hand or any of that, right? I think that might have moved on me a little bit. This one is not wanting to cut out for some reason. As you can see, I just got temperamental with it and just pulled it and didn't even care because I could tell that I was having some issues with it. So we're just gonna not waste time on that, but do it over. All right, so let me clean this up. And you're probably looking at the back of these pieces and saying, look at all the pieces that are stuck in there. And that may be driving my OCD friends crazy. But it actually can be very quickly and easily fixed. So I'll show you in a minute how I do that. All right, let me get just one more piece of glacier because I still really want my glacier done. I've got lots of little scraps, but most of them are just long pieces and not really wide pieces. So let's see if any of these will work. All right. I think that they will. Now, the beauty of using the copy paper like I showed, okay, was because the copy paper is so thin, it can get up into the grooves and still allow the other paper to get cut. And we've seen that with all the other pieces that we've cut, right? But some of the copy paper is still there, and that's just to kind of make everything else typically fall out better like we want it to. Now, this piece, I can't tell if it's hanging over or not. So we're just going to clean that up. All right. Well, I think it's losing its sticky. Let me get another piece of washi tape. All right. And the other thing I could do too that I didn't was I can just tighten up my, either put in another plate or tighten up my embossing machine, depending on what type of embossing machine you have. Sometimes it's just requiring just that, a little bit more pressure in order to cut out, especially with 2 pieces of cardstock. I tend to leave it on the lowest setting, that way it's easiest for me to go back and forth between my embossing folder and my dies, but then I may not be able to get into it as easily either, right? All right, so here we go. And honestly, I don't even really kind of pick at it. I just immediately go and get my tweezers and poke through the hole. That way I don't have to play with it. I just know it's going to come right out by doing it that way, right? All right, so it just, in my opinion, saves me a step. Okay, so there you go. So now, if it did not bother you, you could just put it back in its case just like this. That way it's already together, so the next time you go to use it, you're not trying to put your washi tape together and do all the things to get it, you know, like you want it. But I know that might bother some of you. So let me show you some other things that we can do. Okay, so I'm going to take the washi tape off and separate my pieces. And I don't know if you could hear it, but I could feel it tearing the copy paper because that's really what it was holding on to. And that's again why I did the copy paper. If I had done it with the actual cardstock and it was the fibrous cardstock, it would have torn the fibrous cardstock. And I didn't want it to tear in an area where maybe I wanted to see it. Okay, so that's what the copy paper is for. Now, if you have the Take a Pick tool from Stampin' Up, and I have the tool, but I don't have this piece that goes with it. So here's the tool, and it has a piece that is like this that you can get that attaches to it. But I already had this in my stash, so I'm going to use it. But what's nice about it is you get like this little mat. It's just a little foam mat, and you put your dies on it, and you just kind of go over the top of it, and it pops out all the little pieces, and it takes literally no time at all. Look at all that. I didn't have to sit there and take a pokey tool or a piercing tool and do that. I was able to just press it down. I'm kind of going rough, but not really, because this foam thing, it's not going to let anything get bent, but it's going to give it a little easy way to be able to let all those pieces go, instead of me sitting there trying to poke each piece out, especially in something that has so many holes, right? All right. So there's that. So I can put these away. And I'm trying to decide. I've got some things I want to show you, but what is the right time? Okay, so we're just going to put these in here. I don't want to lose them, and so I know if I don't put them right away, I will. So I'm going to put that in there. And then get the big piece and put that in here as well. And then I'm all set. All right, so now before we go any further, what we're going to do is we're going to do just a little bit of stamping. We don't have a lot of stamping. Here's our our project. This is what we're making, okay? And so on the back of the white piece of cardstock that you should have a 4x4 piece of cardstock. We're going to just random stamp going all the way across You Are Amazing. And if you pay attention, you look, you can see I did not try and make them straight across. In fact, I tried to get them so that they did not look too uniform. That way you don't have to stress about, is it perfect? Because nothing that this girl does is perfect. That's not how God made me, and I'm okay with it. Now, my perfectionist husband might disagree, but we balance each other out. This is supposed to be fun, not stressful, right? That's how I see it anyway. Okay, so I had to cut my piece. Here we go. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take our inks. Now I pre-did this up so that you guys could see, and I'll put it right here. So I wanted you guys to see kind of the difference between the inks. So if you don't have all the Stampin' Up inks yet, you know, no worries. And if you have a lot of the Close to My Heart inks, you know what you could do. So Gray Granite is this one here, and Mink is this color here. They're both very, very similar. The Mink obviously is just a tad lighter. We're going in for a background here, so we want it to be faint, but we want it to be seen. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do, I'm going to take the Mink, but you can do whatever color you have, okay? So I'm going to take the Mink. Okay, and we're just going to take this like this, and we're just going to go right across. Now, this is a little bit different. The Stampin' Up stamps are a little bit different than Close to My Heart stamps. With Close to My Heart stamps, we used to want to make sure that we had something soft behind it, because they were, the stamps themselves, the acrylics were a little bit softer. These are a little bit harder, and so you can use them without having to have that soft piece of foam behind it. It doesn't hurt, but you may tend to get more ink from the edges if you use it. Now, I want to make sure that it does not look so uniform like we were just talking. So I'm going to hold this over, and I'm going to just bring it here and make sure that I'm not getting too much the same. And if I'm really not sure, sometimes I'll just go right in the middle, and then I know how much I have to do on each side. And then maybe here. I want it to be very, almost random. I don't want it to look like it's just one right after the other on each line, that kind of thing. All right, so there we go. And then let me wipe down this. And I apologize, I know you guys are getting a lot of glare from my light, but I do not have much light in this room, especially when I'm doing my videos in the evening. So I'm wanting to try and get a little bit more light for you. Okay, so we've got that one done. You also have an area in your kit that is this little cutout, and that again is from the die cuts. And we're just going to stamp, but I want this one to be a little bit darker, so I'm actually using charcoal. Okay, and so I'm taking the charcoal ink, and this is going to be on our second page. And for this one, I said, you are amazing in every single way. Same thing, right? We're just saying it now really, really bold from this one. Okay, now if there was a different stamp that you wanted and it would fit in here, go for it. Okay, I'm just making it kind of stand out even more. And there you go. So put that to the side. And easy peasy, that is truly all the stamping we're doing. We're not doing a lot of stamping, but I did want to show you something really quickly. Okay, here is one of the designs that I stamped. Then I cut out with our die cut, just like we've always done. In the past, we stamp and then we cut it out with die cut, or we'll cut it out with die cut and then stamp. I stamped it, and I did the rock and roll technique, which means I first had it in the cherry cobbler, and then I went around the edges in copper clay. And then I put it, just the piece itself, then I put it through my embossing folder so that it could get that texture. So I wanted to show you that, like, I know we said earlier, maybe you don't need the stamp set, but if you want to be able to get that really bright color, so here you can see how these are more muted. It is picking up a color, but I can't really choose well unless I take like a sponge daub or something to get different colors in different areas. But here I'm getting the lines, right? Here I'm only kind of getting what's behind it. I'm not really getting those lines. So it's a different look, but it's still going to have that texture. Okay, so I just wanted to show that to you really quickly. That's how I'm using it traditionally, you know, using your stamps and dies, but then putting it into the embossing folder. I was able to line it up right over where it would normally go and still be able to get that. So just, you know, again, don't forget, even though I'm showing you this way, other ways that you can do it as well. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to clean up my area, and we're going to get 2 base pages. But we're obviously going to start with 1. I'm going to put this all off to the side so I can play with it. I'm going to adjust the camera just a little bit so you can see more. All right. And then I'm going to start with a white base page. Now, I always tell you, you can start with whatever color you want. It's a base. It's not going to be seen. And you can see, I'm going to bring in the original. You can see this base page here. We're covering it all up with our squares, right? However, because we put these through the embossing, when we cut it at a 6x6 or even a 6 1/8 or whatever, it's going to shrink up the piece a little bit. So if you want to make sure that you don't lose anything, you always want to make sure you cut these pieces to like 6 1/8 or 6 1/4. That way, if it shrinks up, you still have all the piece that you want. I cut them at 6x6 when I sent them to you. So by cutting it at 6x6, we know they're going to shrink up just a tad. So that means we want our base, if it comes through, and you can see right here it did, and I'm not worried about that, okay, because I don't think anybody's really going to pay attention to that. It just kind of looks like the pattern of what we've got. It looks almost, in my opinion, like it was meant to be, okay? But if you had like a bright orange behind there, it's going to pop through. You're going to see that orange behind it, okay? Now, if you have some really cheap and expensive white 12x12 cardstock that came in a kit or something that you bought at Hobby Lobby, and it's not something that you would use on a typical situation, this is the perfect time. Just put it in the back. It doesn't have to be your specialized paper or anything like that. It's just something that you're going to be able to put all of your pieces together. All right, so what I'm doing is I am just taking all of my pieces, or 4 of my squares. I've got 2 whites, Misty Moonlight, and a Glacier, and I'm just laying them down, and I'm getting them ready to be able to adhere down. And I want to make sure, like, let's see, where was it? So this one, you can see it stopped before it got to the edge. And here it didn't, it went over the edge. So I want my pieces, as much as I can for what people are going to see on the edge, for them to be shown on these 2 edges, for them to look like they're going all the way across. So I'm going to take the ones where it kind of stopped a little short, and I'm going to put them inside, because I'm going to end up covering up a big piece of that. And so that's what I'm looking at when I decide how am I going to lay these out, okay? And the other thing I'm looking for is I want to make sure that that they're kind of rotated a little bit, that they're not laid, excuse me, they're not laid out the same as all the other ones. So let's see. I'm going to say it's like that. And so obviously, look, these are all in different directions, right? I've got my big one here, and then it's going up, and then this one's coming down. So that's pretty cool so far. That's just how that happened. But that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm just kind of paying attention to that. So this one, it actually was coming down in the same area, but I have 3 sides that are pretty good, so I'm not going to worry about it, and I'm just going to move it up. And I think that looks good. And actually, yeah, okay. So now I'm just going to go ahead and adhere them down. And you can use whatever adhesive is your favorite adhesive. With embossing folders, you're going to want to use a little bit more. Liquid adhesive isn't a bad idea because you really need it to kind of get up into the embossed area, especially if it is a large embossed area like this. Okay. So I try to be very thoughtful when I pick it up to think about, okay, how did I have it laid down first? This way I can just flip it back up and I don't have to think about it again the same way. Okay. There you go. All right, so now what we're going to do is we've got two of our Misty Moonlight that are base pages. And we're going to take the one that's totally square. It's an 8.5 by an 8.5. And we're just going to place it right now. I'm not gluing it down, but I want to be able to tuck in all of my pieces, and let me grab them, all of my little pieces of leaves that I want to go around it. So I'm just placing it there right now. In fact, even though I'm just placing it, I am going to go ahead and put foam tape on it, so that's going to give me a little bit more dimension and depth, and that's going to help me in the process, okay? So go ahead, if you've got big pieces of foam tape, you can use your big pieces of foam tape. I'm just going to kind of do it like this here for a minute. We're just putting this down just like that. All right. So something that's going to kind of keep it pretty even and down. I'm not going to take any of it off and apply it yet. Again, that's just raising up, so it's going to make it easier for me to tuck and to do whatever I want. So what I know is in my blue, I want the white to be down first. That's going to make it pop, and it's going to make any other colors that I have around there come in too and kind of pop as well. So I'm going to kind of tuck these in, and obviously with all of that I'm going to end up losing a big amount of it, right? Because it's so far tucked up underneath there. So let's look. If I do it like right now, I'm just playing. Okay, and this is how like I kind of determine what I'm wanting to do is I just get in here and kind of play. So I'm just going to kind of stick that down. That's going to allow me this. But then if I want, I like to cut up my pieces. That way I can kind of, I'm just sticking them in there, and it's going to give me that more definition, and I'm not having to cut up even more. Okay, for this one, same thing. If I keep that one there, what piece gets lost? Completely that piece. So I'm just going to cut that off. But I'm going to leave this stem on because it's going to be easier to adhere all of it down with the long stem. All right, because I'm going way down into the page. Now I'm just going to take some other colors and kind of put them around. I want to go basically from this seam down to here. So it's a little bit, not quite half, like I'm not doing this whole side, but I'm wanting to, like, because I'm not going from here to here, I'm going down to here. It's kind of giving me that angle effect that is what I'm looking for. So again, same thing. I want my darkers to show, and I'm going to end up cutting some of that off, but I want my dark to show a little bit more and pop on that white. So let's look and see what I can do. Do something like that. Now I'm going to bring in some of my colors and see how the difference by putting this here and having the white, it makes that green or glacier pop even more. And I'm going to try, actually I'm going to change that. I'm going to try and not do the same See how I've got like this leaf and it's this type of leaf? I want to change up my style of leaves. I don't want them all to look the same. Now here's one where I had that kind of cut. So what I can do is bring in that and then have this so it looks like that's tucked there and I'm not losing all of that. Does that make sense? Same thing here, I could even do it like that. So right now all we're doing is just playing. We're just kind of laying things out so that we can kind of see how things are looking, what we want to do. Definitely want to have layers, and so this is where using tweezers kind of comes in well. Want to have layers like that. Let's see. And this one I'm even I want the stem to be showing just a little bit because without it, it almost looked awkward, right? Did you see how when I had that in there, like you're kind of trying to figure out what is that? But by putting it like this, I can see the stem and then I'm seeing it's a little bit more of that leaf. But I'm not leaving it there. I'm going to take some more of these leaves. And again, all we're doing right now is we're just tucking, just playing and tucking. And these are the things that we're looking for. Okay? So, doesn't have to be anything particular. I am keeping the pinks to the light side. I don't want as many pinks as maybe you would think, just because I really want the pink to be subtle, just a pop of it, per se. All right, let's see. What else can I do here? All right, so I think I like that for the most part. I am going to change up and put a little bit of this in here. But I got to be careful because I don't want to lose that one either. So I don't have to go so far over, and I can lift that up like that, or tuck that up underneath, and then the blue here is going to pop. So do you see the things I'm kind of trying to pay attention to? All right, so now I know exactly where everything's going to kind of be. And what you can do is you could either take a pencil and kind of mark it, or I'm going to move these over so that they don't get lost. I can see that this is about there. So I'm just going to lift this up and see, okay, all of this here is for naught, right? I'm not using or seeing any of that. So I'm just going to take that off. All right. You're probably like, what are you doing? But I promise, I got purpose. I got purpose. All right, so I think everything else, for the most part, I've got that stem, but I think everything else I had already cut off. So we're just going to center this. We said this was 8.5. So we're going to do it at 1 3/4 on both sides. 1 3/4, 1 3/4, 1 3/4, and that's going to give us right there. And I can make sure if there's anything in here that I want. I'm just kind of pressing it down. All right, so that looks good to me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take off my backing of my pieces here. And this is the real me. This is how I tend to do it, okay? Because once I get it in place, I have such a hard time getting it in place again if I move it to put adhesive down. So what I tend to do, and I don't have to take the backing, by the way, off of all of this foam tape. I'm just doing enough that it's going to hold it down, basically. All right, so we've got that there. I like the placement of it. 1 3/4 on all edges is what we're looking for. I'm setting that down. So the first thing that's going to do is any foam tape, and I did take off the backing of the foam tape that was on that side, so any foam tape that touched it was going to help it, okay? These smaller pieces here are going to be a little bit harder to hold down with glue and that kind of thing. And so again, that's why I'm doing it that way. But what I tend to do is I will take my liquid glue at this time and I will just start lifting behind it and pressing it down and gluing it down this way rather than taking it off, putting tape on it, all of that. This way I know I'm getting everything in its place. It's where I wanted it to be. I don't have to worry so much about it when I've got a big piece like these two, because I can just squirt and it's good, right? The ones I've got to kind of worry about are going to be these thinner ones right here. And so a lot of times what I'll do too is I'll just take my block after I put a few on there and I'll just lay my block down on it. That's going to hold it down and it's going to need that grip, especially with the texture. The texture is going to want to make it kind of pull away and not have as much to adhere onto, which again is part of the reason why I'm using the liquid glue, because I want it to be able to kind of get in there. Now on these pieces, I don't want to get all of it down and around in there. I really don't, because a lot of times it's just going to show through. It's going to come through on the edges. But I want it to kind of look like it's floating, and that's going to help me give that dimension as well. So I'm just going to pick like a key place to put a little bit of adhesive, put the glue there, and then just hold that one key place down. And then same thing, I'm just going to kind of come up over here, find a key spot that I can put a little bit of adhesive, but it's not usually going to be on the tip. I want the tip to be able to be raised, so that it feels like, again, it's just floating there. Like the wind's caught it or something, I guess you could say. I would say if you have strips of 3D foam tape instead of using the squares, those would almost be better, because you could put an entire strip really close to the edge, and then you know all of these little pieces that you've got tucked, there's going to be something holding onto it, okay? So that might almost be better, because like this piece right here, I can tell does not have foam tape on it. This little thin piece right here. The big pieces I'm not worried about, because I'm going to have enough glue up underneath them that they're not going to want to go anywhere, right? But it's these little pieces here that I want to make sure I somehow, now that you know how it's, what do they say? Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Now that I've kind of looked at this piece as from the coral in the ocean, that's all I see. Hope I didn't ruin it for you too, but hopefully it's not ruining it. It's just giving you more awesome options. That's what we're aiming for, right? And so I'm just going to kind of go back and see if there's any that are popped up more than I really want them to be. This is a magnet that I have here off to the side, and this glass mat, I put a piece of magnet underneath it so that it will help. And so as I'm working on things, I don't have to worry about it moving so much, but this is another way that it helps. It just helps hold those pieces down as well. All right, so we've got those. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your You Are Amazing, and we're just going to put this in this top corner. We want to give ourselves about not quite a 1/4 of an inch, maybe more of like an 1/8 of an inch. We're going to have more space on the top and the bottom than when you go to put them together. You want the same around the edge, and then you'll have 3 pictures here, and they may have less space in the middle than they would around the edge. You want the edges to be more of like closer to a 1/4 of an inch, but maybe an 1/8 of an inch in between them. All right, so I gotta remember what I just said, right? There we go. And then when I go to put my other pieces down, they're going to be an 1/8 of an inch here and here and here, but I'll still have a 1/4 of an inch all the way around. All right, now you have your pieces that I had sent you that says You Are Amazing, that were cut out of the Cricut. So we want to grab those. I'm going to leave this here so that can dry just a second. So we've got these 2 pieces, and then you should have a pink piece. And I even left mine attached to the Cricut. Yours, obviously, we couldn't do it that way because I needed to send it to you, or the Cricut mat, sorry. But I'm going to show you in your bag are a lot of little pieces. So just be really careful because those are going to be the insides of like the eye or, you know, different pieces that you may want to have. I've misplaced my good tweezers, and so I'm using these things, and I am not used to them. I do not like them as much. But my fingers are a little too big to work without tweezers. All right. So let me grab my Cricut mat. All right. Now this one is almost, because it's so thin and so little, it's almost hard to get your adhesive where you want it to be. And so if you were cutting it out, you know, on your own, this would be a good one to use, like with the adhesive back paper that you put on the back side of it, and then when you cut it out, it kind of cuts it the same way. That would be a good way to do it. What I'm going to do instead, you guys have seen me do this before, but I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on my glass mat, and then I'm just going to take a little brush and just brush on the adhesive. That way it's not too thick in any of the areas, and then I won't end up getting adhesive coming out of all of the little crevices and edges, because it is noticeable when you use a liquid adhesive like this. You'll notice that it will get glossy. And so this is a good way to kind of prevent it, because you can keep it pretty thin. There we go, pretty thin as you put it down. All right, and then we're just wanting to line it up as best as we can, just like that. And you want to do it pretty quickly because we did put a thin layer of adhesive on there, and so if it starts to dry before you get it down, then you're going to have a hard time getting it on there. Like you can see, some of those are not sticking, so I'm just going to take a little bit more and then lift it up and just put it on the back. I've got it in place, so now all I'll have to do is press down once I get my adhesive there. If you have one of the old X, you know, machines that makes things into a sticker, you could obviously use that. And sometimes I do too, but I'm just, like I said, I'm a frugal girl, and I can see that those things are, they add up quickly because I use them too much. So this is just a quick way to do it and to make it work. So I'm just sticking that down. It took me a minute to kind of get it in place, so it started to dry a little too much. There we go. There you go. And then before that dries on my craft mat, I'm going to go ahead and wipe that up. And I've got a little bit of water I'm going to spray on it too, just to kind of help. I really need to take something and really clean my mat a little bit better, but I use it all the time. It's a good sign, right? Okay, so here we go. So here's this. So we've got that on there. Now, there are, like we talked about just a second ago, there are a little bit of pieces that you may want to put inside. So I'm going to my Cricut mat, where I did not take it off of intentionally, and picking up a little of those pieces. Look in your bag and see if you have them, and then just put like a dot of glue on it, just a small amount, so that you're not getting huge amounts. But these are really just more for the insides of your letters or your eye, that kind of thing, so that it doesn't just look like so spacious. And if you don't care, then don't do it. I know it can be a hassle, but I know some people, well, and I just lost my piece. I don't even know where it went. Some people really like to have it there, and I'm just going to have to not worry about that one, because I have no idea where that went. It went flying is where it went. If you see it, you can tell me, but I'm not seeing it. I told you these are not my favorite tweezers. So I am still trying to work with them. Well, I would have, oh, you know what? It was stuck to my finger. Oh my goodness, where's my coffee? All right, there it is. It was stuck to my finger. Didn't even feel it. All right, there you go. So I'm just putting in those inside pieces. Same thing, I'm going to take out this, do one more A, and then one more G. And the E is in there too, but I'm not so worried about that E. That E is pretty small, that little part there. If you really want it, go for it. But as we've seen, there's a good chance I'm going to lose that piece, so why bother, right? All right, so there you go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is, we've already got my page lifted, like this piece lifted up where we're going to put our flower or put our pictures. So I don't really want to lift up any more of it. Sorry, that was my magnet. It was very loud. I don't want to lift up any more of it and put even more dimension, or it's going to make my page just too thick for what I'm trying to do. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to take this, and before I adhere it down, we're going to do basically the same thing, okay? I'm just going to cut these pieces off. This is a good time for me to potentially use them so that they look like they're individuals and they don't look like they're the base of it. I don't want to use white, but I'm trying to put a couple pieces here so that it'll make it look like it's standing up or standing off, okay? And it's got more base behind it. So I'm just going to kind of play. It does not have to be centered. It could be however you like. Just take whatever pieces you can find that you think, but I would suggest you use full pieces, meaning like this, not where they're popped out like that, okay? And so maybe something like that, and something like that. Okay, now I realize that these are going to probably go off into my photos just a little bit where this one is, and I'm a-okay with that, because what that's going to do is it's actually going to act almost like fingers pointing to those photos, and so that's okay. So what we're going to do now is just like we did before, I'm going to go ahead and put adhesive on the back. This is how I do it. Some of you really like to lay it all out and then pick up each piece and then put adhesive on each piece and then get it in place. But I know how I operate, and I'm going to end up knocking something with my finger or dropping something on it, and it's not ever going to be like I wanted it to be. It's not going to be where I wanted it to. So this is going to help me keep it where I need it to be. Now, if it is going to go off into overlapping a photo, just make sure you don't put adhesive there. I don't really need to worry about this blue piece. It's definitely stuck down because of Amazing, but I'm still going to put just a little bit in there just to be safe. It's always better to be safe than sorry, right? All right, so there's that first page. Second page is going to be even faster because we've really done all of the steps and you know what to do. So again, just grab your white base, and then we're just going to lay these out, paying attention again for the edges, making sure that the pieces that go all the way to the edges are the ones that go all the way to the edges here. And I'll show you too what I'm looking for. So if I bring in that first page, I want to make sure that, here's my first page. I want to make sure I don't clone it exactly the same where my boxes are, that it acts more of like a triangle or a V, you know, and everything's a little bit different. Nothing's the same. I wouldn't want a white here and a white here, or a blue here and a blue here, that kind of thing. So I'm trying to change that up a little bit, and then making sure that my glaciers are opposite of where they were on each page, okay? So that's kind of what I'm looking for there. And so now that I've got that done, I can just go ahead and adhere this down. And again, use a little bit more adhesive than you might typically, because we want to make sure that the texture in this that gives it the raise, you're getting it to really adhere down. My piece, I think, adjusted just a little bit. Well, if it did, and it did just a little bit, I can cut that off at the edge, but it looks like it's off on, or it's even on this side, so it could be like that because I'm putting it through the embossing machine. So you're not going to have those perfect corners like you used to, you're used to from just cutting it yourself. They may be off slightly, and if they are, let them overlap, and then you can just cut those away if you need to. Alright, so this time we're taking our longer piece of the two. So we've already used the other one. You're using the one piece that you have left, right? And again, same thing, we're going to put this kind of in the center. Before I do anything, I'm going to go ahead and put my foam down. And I think I actually do have some strips, so let me look real quick. I've used most of my rolls, but let's see what I have. I've got these rolls. These rolls will work. And I'm just, again, I'm putting them in the corners close to where I know I'm going to have a lot of my flowers. And my flowers are mostly going to go right here, okay? So I definitely want my strips to be close to those edges, like this. And then I'm going to take the rest of it and I'm just going to put it willy-nilly everywhere else because the rest of it really doesn't matter. I just want to make sure that it's even. I don't have an area that's going to sink down lower than another part. I've even been known to do this. Let me show you. It's easier to do when you've used them all inside, but I like to get my most bang for my buck. So I take the outside edging of this, and if it's on a big project like this or a big piece, I will even do this, or I will do I'm sure you've all done this as well. I'm sure I'm not showing you anything you've not thought of, but like I said before, I like to get out whatever I can. And because it's not a shaker, I don't have to worry about it getting to every edge, but I know that I'm not going to have any piece that's going to sink down in there, okay? So there's this. There we go. Now what we're going to do is the same thing. We're just going to tuck and go, basically. So think about your colors. I definitely am going to want some blue in between those two, right? I'm not going to want green on here. I'm not going to want white on here. So that's a good pop to have as my base. I'll bring in some of my pinks here. Let's see. We're just trying to definitely go in the backgrounds right now. We can do different layers of different colors, but right now in the backgrounds we definitely want more color popping that's going to accent the base color that's there. So here I can take these bigger pieces and just kind of tuck and not worry so much about them. Okay, so I put my big pieces down as my base, and then I'm just going to fill them in with the smaller pieces. And I'm going to look for colors that didn't get used the last time. So I didn't have a blue there, so now I'm going to put a blue here. And then I'm going to take and put maybe a pink like this on top. So that's going to make it kind of stand out a little bit. Then I can do, actually actually, I think I'm going to put white there because I can put my pink here and it will be apart from that one. So I know I'm probably overthinking it for you guys, but there's a point in me overthinking it is I want you guys to kind of think through these things as you're laying them out, see what maybe you could be looking for to adjust. Okay, why maybe we would have them. And sometimes too, see how I left that little piece in there? I don't know if you can see it, but I left, sometimes I do that just again to give it a different texture. I don't have to have every little spot out. I want it to kind of look like natural. You know, nature, they don't all look exactly the same, right? And so this is going to give me that opportunity. And so I'm going to take this, and again, you don't feel like you have to use all the pieces that you cut out. You get a little box like what I showed you, but I wanted to be able to not have to go back if I felt like, oh, I really want this here, or I really want that there. I wanted to know that I had it and I wouldn't have to go back in and recut more. Okay, and so now I've got can't even speak. I've got a good base, and so I'm just going to now put in these holy ones. And my little line of foam there is trying to stop it from going in, which is good. That means since I lifted it up, I'm going to have a good place for it when I'm done, but that's what was holding me back. And so now I can put this green on top of the blue and the pink. And I say green, the glacier, it's not really green, but the turquoise, whatever color you want to call it. And it's not going to get lost in the background, right? Because the blue is under it and it's going to help it pop. And so for that, I moved over this mat a little bit to make it even. I'm checking my measurements, forgive me, I'm wanting to make sure that I'm even in the center. So I think that's good. All right, and let me, because that one got moved just a little bit, let me put that there, and maybe I don't know why, but I love this piece. I just think it's so fun. And if you cut it out of foil, like gold foil, it's just like gorgeous. Love it. All right. So I think I like that. I hope you guys like it, but I think I like that. I think that that looks very full. I've still got more pieces over here on the side that, again, I'm going to add to that container because I can use these for more, but I don't feel like I need to have any more here. I feel like I've got a good look. The only thing I'm not sure of is if I want that piece or if I want the one that's stamped. I saw that one sitting there and I was like, ooh, I want the stamped. See the difference? That just popped right off the page, having the stamp, or not stamped, but where we took the ink and rubbed it on the embossing folder versus that one. This was pretty, but there was no definition between that and here. And since they were basically touching one another, it kind of got lost with this piece. So that's going to make it pop. Like that much better. All right. So I think I like how all of that is. I hope so because I'm committing. So again, we're just taking off. And I'm just going to really do the ones on the outsides because the inside is just there to hold up the whole page. And then now we just got to make sure we're nice and centered. So this is 6.5. So 2.25. Just making sure I'm okay. Just like that. All right, so I've got those now. Same thing, we're just taking our adhesive And you can see that that did not get held down, this little piece right here that I'm just doing. So that one's going to be important that well, I'm throwing my magnets, but they're having a hard time. Okay, there we go. Just make sure, like, this one's just barely hitting the edge of my paper. I want to make sure it doesn't go over or it's not going to fit into my page protector like I need it to. So I'm just lifting that, lifting this. This is the Stampin' Up liquid adhesive. I will tell you that if I wasn't out of my Barely Art glue, I would be using that. This is good, but it is a little bit more watery. And what I've found is that when I use this fibrous paper right here, it soaks it in, but doesn't really leave a lot of sticky. So that's why I'm having to go through and put my magnets down to kind of hold it in place. Because I've got to make sure it's on its own, it's not going to stay there. Especially with the dimension of it. So it is a very good glue, and it's got this nice little point that you can see I have bent. Yeah, I'm rough on my stuff, especially the cap comes with like a little needle in it so that you can poke it down into the hole of this so that it doesn't dry out, which is wonderful. That's how it should be. But it's so little, and it's hard to see as I'm getting older, that I bend it as I'm trying to get it in sometimes. And so that's why that is the way it is. All right, so now I'm just going to go back and pick up some of these that are the really dainty ones that we talked about before. Again, just finding like that center spot that I can just add one little dot. I don't want to add much. I want it to look like it's still flying. That's how we're getting the dimension. And yes, I know that they're going to be in page protectors, but you can still see that dimension come through in a page protector. That's why we use 3D foam tape, right? Because we want that dimension, and our hands feel the dimension even through the page protector. We can feel something raised. That's why we use our embellishments. That's why we use different things. As we're looking at our pages, it draws the eye to our pictures. So that's why we don't just put them in the old style photo albums anymore. We use our papers and embellishments and all the things to really make them stand out and enhance our photos. Hopefully not take away from them. All right, I think, let me see if I got anything else that's stuck in there. I think we're good. All right, so I told you that has got like a massive magnet in there. All right, so all of that's there. The only other thing that we've got to do is we've got to take our You Are Amazing, and we're just going to put adhesive on the back. And we're just going to just tuck this in right here. And you're going to be able to put, I have 4 3x4 photos here. Same thing like we talked about on the last one, where you're going to have a wider border around the outside of it, and it's going to be thinner inside. So let me bring in the original so you can see. But do you see how I've kind of got that wider border here, and then it's a little bit thinner inside? So when you're laying those down, that's what you're going to be looking for. And then you should have some bling as well, some of the diamonds that you can kind of put around here just to truly make these kind of stand out a little bit. I've got some here, so I'm going to do that just so you can kind of see where I would like to put them. These are so faint, and I'm not looking for it to be super blingy. This is not one of those layouts, but again, it's going to enhance the leaves and really make them pop, and so that's why we want them to be shown here. Do that one. Okay, and then let me bring back that first page because we didn't add any there. And I'm sure you all know how to do this and do a great job, but if we're going to complete it, let's complete it, right? Okay, so there's that. So I usually do them around my titles because then it's going to make my title stand out a little bit more. And then we're also going to do them just around some of the leaves to really make the leaves pop. And there you go. And then you can add more once you add your photos if you want to do some around them. But I'll wait to do that because I'm going to decide what photos I really want to, or what areas of the photo I really want to enhance. So, or make people kind of be drawn to. So there's your layout. I hope you guys enjoyed that and learned something from that. And I hope you guys fell in love with this, this changing leaves set. Now, like I said, it is on the going away list. So if it's something that you really fell in love with, like what we played today, I would definitely take a look at it. I also wanted to show you, this one is new as in January, the beautiful butterflies. And this is a beautiful set. I love it. It's very similar to the other. It comes with an embossing folder as well. And then you've got your stamp set, and then you've got these. And if you know me and anything about, if you know anything about me, you know I love butterflies. What's really cool about this one is it actually cuts out a section, but it also just embosses a section so that you can make it into a card base as well. And I have one here to show you. Here's the embossing folder. I did want to show that to you. So you can see it's got the big butterfly here that you're seeing. Here is a card that I made following what this piece here is for. So it cut it out of my card base, and then I was able to stamp using the stamp set, and then cut out the base, and then also cut out this color texture piece here. And I stamped that and then cut it out. So, and then it folds up like this. And so all of that was one piece. I didn't glue that down or any of that. That's what this piece here makes. So it's really cool, and it's got that texture in there. It's got the color in there. It's got the stamp, because this gives you, like, for the wings, and then the background, and that's using, I think it's the Boca Mix papers here as my base. And so that's how I was able to create that one with this set. And this, again, is very similar. It has the embossing folder that has an area for you to be able to take this and put in there, and to be able to emboss it and get it all done. So lots more coming that I can show you, but I did want to show you with the beautiful butterflies how this was, this one was created, and what this piece looks like as you're doing it. So hopefully that will help. And you can see too that this one also has more like name labels, or I think that's what they used to call them, right? Where it was like for your journaling, that kind of thing, or for dates. So again, more options than just what you would typically see with a stamp set. You're getting all the pieces that you need plus some in order to be able to recreate. So, and to have fun with it. Plus, I do love the multiple font styles with this. So I always look for a stamp set that has multiple fonts style and where they're brought together. That's just something that pops out that I really like. So anyway, I hope you guys had fun tonight. I hope you created along with me. If not, once you get your supplies, you are able to create. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Either way, happy scrapping. You have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.